All right, guys. So first off, we need to talk about how somewhere in a boardroom, somewhere in marketing is where this had to start. Somebody in research said, we need to name our new pair of IEMs Dudu. Like that started in somebody's head. And then it was brought to a boardroom of other people within the company that had to sign off on this. Somehow this IEM that we're gonna look at today, which is from 10 HiFi, is called Dudu. Now I did have to look this up to see if there was some kind of other meaning. 10 HiFi is a Chi-Fi company, so I looked up the Chinese definition of Dudu, and in Mandarin Chinese it actually means commander-in-chief. So that actually has a much better definition than what I thought, especially considering what Dudu means here. So what we're gonna talk about today is a 13mm planar magnetic driver IEM that actually has two different variations that you can buy. Now, if you buy the standard edition, you can actually pick it up for like $69 right now, but they also have a commemorative edition that normally retails for $99, but right now you can pick it up for only $87. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, that's the one you're gonna wanna go with. I'll explain all of that throughout this video, but let's go ahead and kind of talk about some of the things that I think stand out about this. Now, the IEM itself is made from an aluminum. It's very smooth, it's cool to the touch, and it actually has a really good fit. I never had any issues with these moving around at all. And on the outside, they have a kind of what they call a chameleon design. It actually does change colors. I think it's more so based on the temperature or the lighting in that environment that you're in. So it will kind of change colors a little bit here and there, but it's not like lights or anything like that. So it doesn't have like a drastic change from one look to the other. Now this pair, like I said, is using 13mm planar magnetic drivers. It is using that dual array of N52 magnets. Now there are 7 on each side. This is the same thing that we just saw on the MP143s that we tested. These magnets are extremely strong. This cuts out on the possibilities of having any kind of distortion. They're usually tending to go for more of an accurate or a faster sound, but we'll talk about that once we get to the sound. And then as far as some other things, now this is what separates the standard version from the commemorative version. The standard version comes with an oxygen-free braided cable. They are using 2-pin connectors to plug into the IEMs, but it has a normal 3.5mm headphone jack, where the commemorative edition, you're getting that exact same cable, but you're also getting a USB-C cable that has a DAC built into it. And the DAC itself supports 32-bit high-res audio playback, and that's why I go ahead and say that the commemorative edition is the one to go with, because USB-C plugins is pretty much what every device has, like when it comes to laptops, when it comes to phones, because even the newest iPhones use the USB-C connection. So that is what I recommend. Plus, getting a built-in DAC on the cable means you're not having to buy a separate DAC or a separate amp to be able to kind of boost some of the frequencies in the IEM itself. Now, if you are going to use the cable that has the normal 3.5mm headphone jack, the impedance level on these IEMs is only 32 ohms, so it is really easy to drive anyway, but most phones don't have headphone jacks. And if you're really still wanting to boost the lows and the highs, you're gonna need a separate DAC or an amp anyway. Now it also says, and this really applies to the USB-C DAC version of the cable, that 10 HiFi is working on an app. And this app is going to kind of give you a little bit more EQ options that applies to that DAC. So that's very important. But as of right now, I did not see it in the Google Play Store. It's something that's still in development, and like I've said with other companies, don't always buy something based off what the company is promising you later. If it's not available now, and if it's not in the box, just go ahead and assume that it's not part of what you're paying for. Now, also in the box, other than the cable, you're getting 6 sets of silicone ear tips, and there's actually 2 different styles. And switching between both of these, I noticed that the one with the red tips, is definitely a little bit cleaner than the ones that are just solid black. I felt like the solid black ones gave me a little bit more boost in the low end. It kind of brought out bass just slightly more. Now, it's not a drastic difference from one over the other, but if you're a bass head or if you just want a little bit extra punch, I would recommend going with the black pair. Now, it also comes with 1 set of foam ear tips. I like when companies do this just because not everybody likes silicone ear tips, so it's nice to have that foam ear tip as an option right out of the box. Now let's just go ahead and just jump right into the sound. Now the way that I'm going to talk about these is with that USB-C cable plug-in, because that's pretty much how I use these the whole time. And the first issue, and I'll go ahead and say the only issue that I noticed with this, is it doesn't get loud enough for me. And this is just plugging straight into my phone. When I plugged it into my laptop, the volume was more than loud enough, but I noticed plugging the USB-C plug-in right into a phone, I kind of just wish that I had a couple more notches in volume. It still gets slightly loud, but it's just not overly loud. Like sometimes you just want to blast your music, and I'm not saying to the point where you're like destroying your eardrums, but I'm just saying you just every now and then want to listen to your music loud, and I don't feel like it's capable of doing that with that USB-C plug-in. But the sound itself, if you're a bass head, this isn't going to be that pair for you. On the outside of the box, it says Master of Balance. So I thought that this was just going in trying to be a flat or neutral sounding IEM, and that's not what it's going for. But this is one of the fastest pair of IEMs that I've tested, especially when it comes to anything under $100. The bass has a nice quick punch to it, but it is quickly moving on to the next beat or the next hit of the drum. Like it is very, very fast. And mixing that with the fact that I feel like treble on these is really nice. It's very detailed, but it's still not close to that point of being harsh. There's no like sibilant sounds when it comes to the S's. So it's not overly bright. It's not overly boosted when it comes to the low end. And the mids on these are they're just great. The texture that it's bringing out in vocalists and the tones and everything that it's bringing out in certain guitars and certain strings made this just really enjoyable to listen to. Now that went from going to metal to classical to pop to hip hop. Now I am gonna say again, if you're expecting that subwoofer type bass for pop and hip hop tracks, it's just not possible. It's not going to happen. And again, I listened to this with the black ear tips, which is bringing out the low end a little bit more. But if you're somebody that wants to tighten this up even more, if you do want to tone down the bass where it has just a slight impact and you're more so just hearing it than feeling it, then go ahead and go with the ear tips that have the red that goes around the nozzle. That's really the difference between the two ear tips. Now, when it comes to the soundstage and the sound imaging, I felt like these had a lot of space to them. Now, I'm not gonna say it's the most open IEM that I've tested. I would say this kind of left me feeling like I was in a large room, so it has a lot of space there. There's a lot of separation between instruments and vocalists and things like that. And honestly, if you listen to anything that has a lot of harmonizing to it, a lot of different vocalists singing the same thing, it's incredible how much you can separate each singer. It's crazy, especially on a pair, again, that's under $100. And then being able to tell where sounds are coming from, this pair has no issues with. So my overall opinion is this: if you're a bass head that likes to blast their music and you're wanting that like overly ear-piercing bright treble, this is not that pair. Especially if you're going to use the USB-C cable. Now, if you're going to use the 3.5mm headphone jack, plug it into an amp, then that's a whole different story. But with the USB-C cable, this pair has incredible sound reproduction. I think it sounds very clean, very detailed. It's extremely fast, while still giving you a slight punch. I do still feel the impact of bass. It's just not like bloated. It's not coming in and like taking over the rest of the sound signature. The treble, again, has a lot of detail without, again, being way too bright and harsh to destroy everything else. And mids are just incredible. It's kind of a different sound signature with these planars than some of the other ones that I've tested. So I think it's one of the more accurate sounding planars. I think it's refreshing that it's not going for that normal U-shaped sound signature, and I just really enjoyed using these. But guys, that's my video on the 10 HiFi Dudu planar magnetic IEMs. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.